Section 3 of The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. The Dream of the Red Chamber, Book 1, by Cao Xueqin, translated by Henry Bancroft Jolly. Chapter 1, Part 3. It was only when the third watch of that day had already struck that the two friends parted company, and Shih yin, after seeing Yü ts'un off, retired to his room and slept, with one sleep all through, never waking until the sun was well up in the skies. Remembering the occurrence of the previous night, he meant to write a couple of letters of recommendation for Yü ts'un to take along with him to the capital, to enable him, after handing them over at the mentions of certain officials, to find some place as a temporary home. He accordingly dispatched a servant to ask him to come round, but the man returned and reported that, from what the bonze said, Mr. Chia had started on his journey to the capital, at the fifth watch of that very morning; that he had also left a message with the bonze to deliver to you, sir, to the effect that men of letters paid no heed to lucky or unlucky days; that the sole consideration with them was the nature of the matter in hand; and that he could find no time to come round in person and bid good-bye. Shih yin, after hearing this message, had no alternative but to banish the subject from his thoughts. In comfortable circumstances, time indeed goes by with easy stride. Soon drew near also the happy festival of the 15th of the first moon, and Shih yin told a servant Huo Qi to take Ying Lien to see the sacrificial fires and flowery lanterns. At the middle of the night, Huo Qi was hard pressed, and he forthwith set Ying Lien down on the doorstep of a certain house. When he felt relieved, he came back to take her up, but failed to find anywhere any trace of Ying Lien. In a terrible plight, Huo Qi prosecuted his search throughout half the night, but even by the dawn of day he had not discovered any clue of her whereabouts. Huo Qi, lacking, on the other hand, the courage to go back and face his master, promptly made his escape to his native village. Shih yin, in fact, the husband as well as the wife, seeing that their child had not come home during the whole night, readily concluded that some mishap must have befallen her. Hastily they dispatched several servants to go in search of her, but one and all returned to report that there was neither vestige nor tidings of her. This couple had only had this child, and this at the meridian of their life, so that her sudden disappearance plunged them in such great distress that day and night they mourned her loss to such a point as to well nigh pay no heed to their very lives. A month in no time went by. Shih yin was the first to fall ill, and his wife, dame Feng, likewise, by dint of fretting for her daughter, was also prostrated with sickness. The doctor was, day after day, sent for, and the oracle consulted by means of divination. Little did any one think that on this day, being the 15th of the third moon, while the sacrificial oblations were being prepared in the Hu-Lu temple, a pan with oil would have caught fire, through the want of care on the part of the bonze, and in a short time the flames would have consumed the paper pasted on the windows. Among the natives of this district, bamboo fences and wooden partitions were in general use, and these too proved a source of calamity so ordained by fate, to consummate this decree. With promptness the fire extended to 2 buildings, then enveloped 3, then dragged 4 into ruin, and then spread to 5 houses, until the whole street was in a blaze, resembling the flames of a volcano. Though both the military and the people at once ran to the rescue, the fire had already assumed a serious hold, so that it was impossible for them to afford any effective assistance for its suppression. It blazed away straight through the night, before it was extinguished, and consumed, there is in fact no saying how many dwelling houses. Anyhow, pitiful to relate, the Zhen house, situated as it was next door to the temple, was, At an early part of the evening, reduced to a heap of tiles and bricks, and nothing but the lives of that couple and several inmates of the family did not sustain any injuries. Shih yin was in despair, but all he could do was to stamp his feet and heave deep sighs. After consulting with his wife, they betook themselves to a farm of theirs, where they took up their quarters temporarily. But as it happened that water had of late years been scarce, and no crops being reaped, robbers and thieves had sprung up like bees, and though the government troops were bent upon their capture, it was anyhow difficult to settle down quietly on the farm. He therefore had no other resource than to convert, at a loss, the whole of his property into money, and to take his wife and 2 servant girls and come over for shelter to the house of his father-in-law. His father-in-law, Feng Su by name, was a native of Ta-ju Chou. Although only a laborer, he was none the less in easy circumstances at home. When he on this occasion saw his son-in-law come to him in such distress, he forthwith felt at heart considerable displeasure. Fortunately, Shih yin had still in his possession the money derived from the unprofitable realization of his property, so that he produced and handed it to his father-in-law, commissioning him to purchase, whenever a suitable opportunity presented itself, a house and land as a provision for food and raiment against days to come. This Feng Su, however, only expended the half of the sum, and pocketed the other half, merely acquiring for him some fallow land and a dilapidated house. Shih yin being, on the other hand, a man of books, and with no experience in matters connected with business, and with sowing and reaping, subsisted, by hook and by crook, for about a year or 2, when he became more impoverished. In his presence, Feng Su would readily give vent to specious utterances, while, with others, and behind his back, he, on the contrary, expressed his indignation against his improvidence in his mode of living, and against his sole delight of eating and playing the lazy. Shih yin, aware of the want of harmony with his father-in-law, could not help giving way, in his own heart, to feelings of regret and pain. In addition to this, the fright and vexation which he had undergone the year before, the anguish and suffering he had had to endure, had already worked havoc on his constitution, and being a man advanced in years, and assailed by the joint attack of poverty and disease, he at length gradually began to display symptoms to decline. Strange coincidence, as he, on this day, came leaning on his staff and with considerable strain, as far as the street for a little relaxation, he suddenly caught sight, approaching from the off side, of a Taoist priest with a crippled foot, his maniac appearance so repulsive, his shoes of straw, his dress all in tatters, muttering several sentiments to this effect: "All men spiritual life know to be good, but fame to disregard they never succeed. From old till now the statesmen where are they? Waste lie their graves, a heap of grass, extinct. All men spiritual life know to be good, but to forget gold, silver, ill succeed. Through life they grudge their hoardings to be scant, and when plenty has come, their eyelids close. All men spiritual life hold to be good, yet to forget wives, maids, they never succeed. Who speak of grateful love while lives their lord, and dead their lord, another they pursue. All men spiritual life know to be good, but sons and grandsons to forget never succeed. From old till now of parents soft many, but filial sons and grandsons who have seen." Shih yin, upon hearing these words, hastily came up to the priest. "What were you so glibly holding forth?" he inquired. "All I could hear were a lot of hao liao (excellent finality)." "You may well have heard the 2 words hao liao," answered the Taoist with a smile, "but can you be said to have fathomed their meaning? You should know that all things in this world are excellent when they have attained finality. When they have attained finality, they are excellent. But when they have not attained finality, they are not excellent. If they would be excellent, they should attain finality. My song is entitled Excellent Finality, Hao Liao. Shih yin was gifted with a natural perspicacity that enabled him, as soon as he heard these remarks, to grasp their spirit. "Wait a while," he therefore said smilingly. "Let me unravel this excellent finality song of yours. Do you mind?" "Please, by all means, go on with the interpretation," urged the Taoist; whereupon Shih yin proceeded in this strain: "Sordid rooms and vacant courts, replete in years gone by with beds where statesmen lay; parched grass and withered banyan trees, where once were halls for song and dance. Spiders' webs the carved pillars intertwine, the green gauze now is also pasted on the straw windows. What about the cosmetic fresh concocted, or the powder just scented? Why has the hair too on each temple become white like a hoar frost? Yesterday the tumulus of yellow earth buried the bleached bones, to-night under the red silk curtain reclines the couple. Gold fills the coffers, silver fills the boxes, but in a twinkle the beggars will all abuse you. While you deplore that the life of others is not long, you forget that you yourself are approaching death. You educate your sons with all propriety, but they may some day, 'tis hard to say, become thieves. Though you choose your fare and home the fatted beam, you may, who can say, fall into some place of easy virtue. Through your dislike of the gauze hat as mean, you have come to be locked in a can. Yesterday, poor fellow, you felt cold in a tattered coat; to-day you despise the purple embroidered dress as long. Confusion reigns far and wide; you have just sung your part. I come on the boards; instead of yours, you recognize another as your native land. What utter perversion! In one word, it comes to this: we make wedding clothes for others; we sow for others to reap." The crazy limping Taoist clapped his hands. "Your interpretation is explicit," he remarked with a hearty laugh. "Your interpretation is explicit." Shih yin promptly said nothing more than, "Walk on," and seizing the stole from the Taoist's shoulder, he flung it over his own. He did not, however, return home, but leisurely walked away, in company with the eccentric priest. The report of his disappearance was at once bruited abroad, and plunged the whole neighborhood in commotion; and converted into a piece of news, it was circulated from mouth to mouth. Dame Feng, Shih yin's wife, upon hearing the tidings, had such a fit of weeping that she hung between life and death. But her only alternative was to consult with her father, and to dispatch servants on all sides to institute inquiries. No news was however received of him, and she had nothing else to do but to practise resignation, and to remain dependent upon the support of her parents for her subsistence. She had fortunately still by her side, to wait upon her, two servant girls, who had been with her in days gone by; and the three of them, mistress as well as servants, occupied themselves day and night with needlework, to assist her father in his daily expenses. This Feng Su had after all, in spite of his daily murmurings against his bad luck, no help but to submit to the inevitable. On a certain day, the elder servant girl of the Chen family was at the door purchasing thread, and while there, she of a sudden heard in the street shouts of runners clearing the way, and every one explained that the new magistrate had come to take up his office. The girl, as she peeped out from inside the door, perceived the lictors and policemen go by two, and when unexpectedly in a state chair was carried past an official, in black hat and red coat, she was indeed quite taken aback. "The face of this officer would seem familiar," she argued within herself, "just as if I had seen him somewhere or other this." Shortly she entered the house, and banishing at once the occurrence from her mind, she did not give it a second thought. At night, however, while she was waiting to go to bed, she suddenly heard a sound like a rap at the door. A band of men boisterously cried out, "We are messengers, deputed by the worthy magistrate of this district, and come to summon one of you to an inquiry." Feng Su, upon hearing these words, fell into such a terrible consternation that his eyes stared wide and his mouth gaped. What calamity was impending is not as yet ascertained, but, reader, listen to the explanation contained in the next chapter. Section 3